What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor Podcast coming at you. This week's guest is Grant Leeth. He is the head coach of the soon-to-be, hopefully, Division I program in Texas, Tarleton University. And look, we get into the weeds about just what it takes to start a Division I program from scratch. I'm talking he had committed athletes before he had mats for them to wrestle on. Like, this guy literally started with a structure of zero. So we talk about the fundraising aspect of it. We talk about what type of recruit he's looking for. We talk about some of the mistakes that he's made. All that and more coming up on the podcast. Don't go anywhere. Let's go. Athletor Podcast. Grant Leeth, G Lethal. How you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm living the dream. How are you doing?
Oh, I can't complain, man. I can't complain. First of all, thank you very much for coming on and spending some time with us. But you're in a super unique position to be starting a program from the ground up. Just broad view, what is that like?
Chaos. When I first came down here, was that November 2023? So just over a year and a half ago, we had nothing. I mean, there was not a wrestling room. There was no athletes, obviously no alumni to go to, and just kind of a vision and a dream that we have this foundation called the Texas Collegiate Wrestling Foundation. They've been working on this for about 20 years, trying to find an opportunity to get a Division I program in Texas. And that was about it. So bunch of guys that have been in.
But hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but I gotta. When you're talking to the administration, when you're doing the interview process, do they have a timeline? Do they have an idea? Or are they just going, we're gonna figure this out as we go?
That is the question. So there is no set timeline. The conversations we had when we started was, you raised $2 million. We launched a men's and women's wrestling program.
Okay.
So it was kind of dependent on getting that fundraising in. The issue, revenue sharing, has slowed things down a little bit. There's a lot of uncertainty across the country with what's going to happen with Olympic sports and smaller sports. If you're not football or basketball, right? Everybody is a little bit on the chopping block. I don't know if you guys know about the upcoming NCAA vote in April.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're well aware.
So that's kind of what we're waiting on now at this point. Fundraising's gone great. We got $1.5 million wrestling room built. It's just, we're waiting to see what happens with this vote in April. And then at that point, we will have a timeline, whether it's this next season, which I'm praying for. We're going to fight for like crazy, but potentially one more year in this NCWA.
Okay, so you get the job. You don't have a very clear or distinct timeline. What do you do first? Who's the first person you call? What do you do first?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right away, needed help.
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at athletorlive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
right away needed help. So I wanted to get one more assistant here. We split up my salary so I could get somebody. That was Jimmy Overheiser.
Mhm.
And then from there we split roles. I said, hey, you start recruiting, get some kids bought into what we're doing. Let's have a team. Let's show that we can build this team relatively quickly. That way we have a product the next season that people can start to see that it's getting real. It's a little easier to sell to donors and pitch to donors and get support that way. From my perspective, I immediately worked with that foundation I told you about. They've lived in Texas a long time. They've been wrestling a long time, very well connected individuals, and started getting contacts from them. And then from there, it was cold emails and cold calls, telling them about what we were doing, the initiative we're running. And if they personally didn't want to help, I asked them who they knew that could or maybe would. And so my number one priority was grow the
Can we
network.
pause there? That seems
Yeah.
to be the best follow-up question that any head coach can ever ask. Hey, I get it. You can't help right now.
Yeah.
Who can? Who can you direct me towards?
Yeah.
So how fruitful of a question did that become?
Very. And I can't take credit for it.
Okay.
My old boss was Rob Cole. I would argue he is the best in the business at fundraising and
Mhm.
networking. And getting to watch him for 3 years at Stanford was the biggest blessing of my life. So it's been super fruitful. I've made connections I would have never thought I'd have and met people that have bought into what we're doing, helped get us that wrestling room, and are continuing to support us and helped fund us through this season. We were completely self-funded, from gear to travel to hotels to everything, was purely fundraised money. So it's been very
Is that
fruitful.
through the support of the Texas Collegiate Wrestling Foundation?
What do you mean?
Well, is the funding like so explain to me how that entity goes about assisting new college programs in the state of Texas.
Okay, so this is a little bit long-winded. Uh,
We got time. I'm gonna be nowhere.
Beautiful. So they've been here a while, so they've got a great network. They had been fundraising to launch this initiative, and our board is Tim Wheeler, Tim Brennan, Al Rogers, and Jim Junta, who started the NCWA. Very well connected individuals, and had the great idea of, hey, we'll fundraise enough to get a coaching salary. And then we
Mhm.
pay a coach to come down and launch this initiative, start fundraising, build the team, create a tangible product that people can believe in, buy into, and we'll go from there. They made contact with the school. They got the agreements with the school. Um, Outside of their network, we're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. So every
Mhm.
dollar that we fundraise goes directly to the foundation. You get tax credits, tax write-offs, but
Mhm.
every dollar that goes into the foundation comes back to what we're doing at Tarleton. Now, once we hit our goal, we launch NCAA program. That foundational transition into helping other programs as well. But
Mhm.
right now, primary focus is get Texas a Division I program. And what our hope is we can take this format and blueprint, get foundations popping up in Louisiana and Georgia and Florida, and kind of replicate this system so that we can go and add programs across the South and across the country.
That's it almost I'm not I have to be a realist, right?
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
almost sounds too good to be true. Like in a world where we every Division One coach, we talk to people every week.
Yeah, yeah.
Every
You guys
coach we
are
speak
awesome.
to is like doom and gloom right now,
Yeah,
especially for this coming August,
yeah.
right? Vote in April, things change dramatically in August. Is this the is this the way, like the silver lining that we've been kind of looking for?
I believe it can be. You know, we have to make it work and show that it works. But I do believe it can be. And talking to guys like Mike Moyer, wrestling's the fourth highest revenue championship in college sports. I wouldn't be shocked if we passed that and are the third highest after this year's nationals.
Mm-hmm.
They just announced a women's championship in
Mm-hmm.
2026.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are some silver linings where, hey, it's not as bad as it seems. For the current Division One coaches, I get it because they're about to have to cut the rosters down to 30. We've
Mm-hmm.
opened the gates that you can have up to 30 scholarships now. So I understand in that aspect, but as far as launching programs, schools want this money. We brought in over $1.8 million in tuition this year. We got $1.5 million
Are you kidding
facility.
me?
Yeah, and we're
That's
gonna
a
bring
lot of money, dude. Like that's a sizable tuition base. Wow.
it well,
So
and Tarleton was the
go ahead.
perfect storm because they want to grow. They want to hit 30,000 students by 2030. We're currently at 18,000 undergrad. So it's the perfect storm. We bring in recruits, we bring in additional students, we get eyes on the school that hadn't seen it before. I'd say a lot of the wrestling world now knows what Tarleton is, or at least have somewhat heard of it. And it's just finding those opportunities across the country where they can be enrollment driven. They want to add, well, right now it's tough to want to add sports, but wrestling's cheap overhead comparatively.
It's not right. Get the startup is not easy, but the overhead is pretty cheap.
Yes. But I think wrestling's got enough powerful individuals that back the sport and support these programs. I mean, that Chad Richardson guy just gave what, 40 million to Oklahoma State. There's a lot of
Oh,
money
yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think it's near as doomsday as it sounds. And then we have Elon Musk and Trump showing up at nationals and tweeting about
That
it. And
I don't think people are really understanding the gravity of that.
oh, it's
Like
amazing.
to have a sitting president show up, not okay, he could have walked in, walked out for sure, but was
Yeah.
so engaged that he stayed past the time that he was supposed to.
Wasn't that cool?
I mean,
That's
if
so cool.
that's not a feather in our freaking cap, I don't know what is. And so
Absolutely.
we have to ride this wave as long as we need to milk the shit out of this thing. We
Absolutely.
really do. And Wyatt winning was
Oh,
the cherry on top.
yeah.
Nothing against Gable. I love Gable Stevenson. I think he is an icon already in the
Absolutely.
sport. But for Wyatt to win, man, that was something very, very special. And the
Made
way that he did,
ESPN look brilliant. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I look, I can't imagine that I'm alone on this. I didn't
Yeah.
give him a shot. I did not give him a shot. In fact, I have text messages to prove that they're like, "Does Wyatt have a shot here?" And I'm like, "With a shotgun. I mean, if he is allowed to bring a shotgun to the mat, maybe." But
Yeah.
I was wrong. I was way
Yeah.
wrong, and
Oh,
I'm
I'd agree
glad
with you.
because it was awesome. I mean, am I
Absolutely.
crazy?
No, not at all. I think that was probably the sentiment of most people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself included. I'm with you.
So okay, you were down there in Philly.
Yep.
Did you bring any of the team members or no?
No, I brought my assistant coach. I would have loved to, but getting a hold of
I
tickets
know
here was
it wasn't
brutal.
cheap. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it was brutal. But I did have one wrestler come, which really glad because I think seeing that tournament changes you without a doubt.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So, how do you take back not just your athletic experience, but how do you take back to your young, hungry wrestlers out of Fort Worth, Texas? How do you tell them you can do this? Like this is the not a pie in the sky. This is attainable in your college career.
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, this year helped me in a big way with that. There was a lot of 22 seeds and, Vincent Robinson tweeting out that he got one opportunity to wrestle in college at NC State, which I think is a little questionable, to be honest. That dude was an Ironman champ, Super 32 champ, but
Those get
nonetheless,
passed by. Look, here's the thing, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but
yeah.
Pat Pop is really, really, really freaking good
Oh, he's
at
phenomenal.
finding that guy.
Yeah,
And it paid off in freaking dividends with 25 points and a national champion as a freshman. You know, I mean,
absolutely.
but so I hear you. It does sound a little far-fetched that he only had one offer,
Yeah,
but it happens. That stuff happens.
it does happen. Absolutely. And I guess he was pretty small at the time, so I could see that being a turnoff for some coaches. But storylines like that, there was a ton of them this year. Wyatt Hendrickson beating Gable, so many underdog stories that made it happen. And honestly, coming back to the kids this week, that was the conversation. It was, hey, these guys believed in themselves. They bought into their coaching staff. David Taylor did an amazing interview about it, talking about Wyatt Hendrickson.
Sure.
If they can buy into what we're doing, believe themselves, give themselves a chance, we can get to that level. I hate to be that coach that toots their own horn, but I've been there. Well, I've wrestled there.
Sure.
My assistant coach, been there, had wrestled there, been surrounded by these guys for the last 10 years of my life and understand what it takes. So just kind of hammering that into their heads that, man, I get you maybe didn't have every opportunity under the sun, but you're here for a reason. You bet on yourself, you bet on this program. There's no reason you can't go do what these kids did. They're just like you. They're 18-year-old, 22-year-old kids that have a dream. And the difference is they believe in it and they did everything they could to get there. So we have a wrestling room. It was one of my speeches before the Nationals was, hey, what makes a great team or what's it take to be a great team? And they raised their hand. They're like, buying in, having a common goal, work ethic, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I didn't say this to them. We don't have all the, what would it
Bells and whistles.
bells and whistles, the typical Division I program.
Mm-hmm.
But what I responded is, what don't we have that you just mentioned? We've got a great place to train. We've got great coaches. You guys work hard. Everything you just said, this team has. We can be great. You just got to believe it. We were young this year, a lot of freshmen, obviously, most 90% freshmen. So we didn't have a ton of upperclassmen leadership. This is my first time in this role, so I definitely made my fair share of mistakes. But I believe we're going to be really, really good, really quick, for sure. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
no, that's a good tangent to get off on. Please, don't apologize for those. Those are great because it's important that we convey this because it's not easy finding motivation. Like I talked to Derek Moore quite a bit. Having a team like he had that was in limbo, for lack of a better term, for X amount of years, not easy to get a kid buy-in. It's really hard.
Absolutely.
But if you can convey that on a consistent basis, they're going to start doing really good things there too, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they got a great recruiting class coming in. So talk to me a little bit about how on a day-to-day you like to convey to these kids that this is not a pie in the sky. We are going to make this happen, and we're going to do it quicker than you think.
Oh, that's a great question too. Right now it's a little different because we just took the week off for spring break after nationals.
Right.
This week's open mat, so I'm not seeing them quite as much this week. But typically, I'll be honest, I take a lot of inspiration from Doug Schwab, his coaching talks that he has before practice, and exactly that. Reminding.
Hey, you got one up on you and I. You got a wrestling room. They don't. Look, call it what you want.
Absolutely. And that's part of it too, is we focus on what we have. It's never what we don't have. It's what we do have. We have a weight room. We got a wrestling room. We got coaches. We got bodies in the room. But then reminding them constantly of our unified goal of, hey, we're going to get this thing to NCAA. we're going to get wrestlers wrestling in that championship, and we're going to do it quicker than any team's ever done it before. You know, Little Rock set the precedent. They gave us a target to aim for right now. And it's just constantly reminding them. I send them message when I see great interviews from other coaches. I'm not afraid to send them a Cale Sanderson interview or a David Taylor interview or a Doug Schwab interview so they can hear that it's not just coming from me. This is coming from some of the greatest coaches in our sport, echoing the same message that we're relaying to these guys. And just constantly trying to get them to buy in that way. And then obviously attaching to a couple of our natural leaders on the team and encouraging them to step in and step up, echo the same message.
And reiterate it, right?
Yep.
They have to reiterate it too. They have to. Because if you don't get the leadership in the room to buy in, good luck.
Absolutely. And I think we battle tested the heck out of them this year. I took them to a lot of opens. We went up to Soldier Salute so they could go see and feel that level. And we competed. Going into the tournament, Rob Cole told me we wouldn't win a match. We won 7.
Dude,
I had guys.
That's pretty impressive. Look, I used to coach at a junior college.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my assistant coaches turning to me and going, we're going to get our heads kicked in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right, 100%. But now, when we go back to a junior college level, it's not that bad. It's pretty, not easy, but it's certainly different.
Exactly. We had a kid beat a nationally ranked guy. We had a kid beat a former. He didn't make it to the tournament, but he was on that wild card list. He pinned him, and I was like, "You guys are there. The separation from 33 to 10 is very marginal. 10 to 1, depending on the weight, is very marginal. We're not far off. You felt it now. We got work to do, but we could do this thing."
And do it quick. That's really the trick of it, right? Because the success begets a lot of funding. If we're going to be honest about it, right? If we're going to be real honest about it.
Without a doubt.
It's easy. It's easy to go to call a donor and go, dude, we just got a nationally ranked win. Dude, we got our first All-American. Dude, we're knocking on the door. It's not easy when you're trudging along.
Yeah.
And that's hard, right? That's hard. So what is it? Okay, you've been at Stanford, right? Talk to me about the slight or even large differences in the recruiting process.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that they're not slight. So go ahead.
Yeah, they're pretty vastly different. I understand where we're at right now. I'm not going to get those top 15 recruits in the country. For Stanford, we had to find a very specific kid that met the academic requirements, but we were also trying to get as many blue chips as we could.
Sure.
Now it's,
and you were in the hunt for those blue chips.
Yeah, I think we had number 3 recruiting class, number 2 recruiting class, and number 4 recruiting class back to back to back. Here, it's obviously not the case. Although I'm expecting my first nationally ranked commit within the next couple weeks, which is really exciting because you get one, and I think it starts to snowball.
It begets, right? One begets the next. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. But now it's more of digging in the trenches, finding the kids that maybe got a really bad draw at the Super 32s, or maybe got a bad draw at Fargo that could have maybe been in that All-American round, 7th, 8th place at Fargo, but just unlucky, and just trying to find the diamonds in the rough. And great thing with Texas, and I'll say this, I hope it changes on one hand for the kids, but on the other hand, I don't hope it changes, is we are severely under-recruited. And a lot of these,
I agree with that.
Yeah, at Stanford, I never skimmed through Texas results. Now being here, it's like, hey, there's some talent. Obviously, we've had Bo Nichols, we've had Travell Delegnevs, we've had Brandon Slays, Jack Muellers.
Yeah, but people forget about Braxton Brown, who's at Maryland right now.
Brown.
That kid is an absolute hammer.
Yeah, he
That
is.
kid's a hammer. Okay. And I would venture to say, dude, by the way, and good on Clemson, right? For doing his homework and digging a little bit past, some of the superficial results.
Yeah.
I think the kid was like a 4-time state champion in Texas. And he basically had one look, and that was Maryland. One
Yeah.
look, right? So they are out there. There's a handful of those every single year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, the ranked kid that I'm hoping we get official here soon is Texas kid, two-timer. I don't want to say too much about him because I don't
Not
want
allowed
to.
to, but I get it. It's fine.
No, it's okay. If he gets other opportunities, it's great. But he wrestled Ishmael Guerrero up a weight class, who was eighth in the country, and got down 9-0 in the first, came back, broke him. He dude was ready to quit. Still lost the match 11-9, but you add another minute to that match at the college level, he wins that match every time. And I've watched him do it 100 times. He was losing 6-1
Really?
in the state finals first period. Second period, broke the kid so bad he rolled over and pinned himself. His pace is terrifying. You get him on the college mat where pace is, if not the most important thing, top three.
One of the,
This
yeah,
kid,
for sure.
this kid's gonna be special. If he gets other opportunities, I'm proud of him. He's like my hidden gem
Is
that
that the kind of kid that you're looking for right now? Just give me a
big time.
motor.
Big time. Give me a motor. Give me somebody that loves the sport, that's willing to believe in themselves and believe in us. And if you haven't had the accolades quite yet, you've seen it a million times. Mike Machiavello.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even think he won a North Carolina state championship, and
Mm-hmm.
goes on to become a
National champion
champion.
without even All-American before that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you can do it, and I know those kids exist. So that's our focus. We're finding those blood round kids at these tournaments, watching them wrestle, and then recruiting Texas really, really hard.
Good. They need it. For sure they need it because there are some kids out there that stop wrestling
Yeah.
prematurely.
Well, and
And
that's what's
I
sad too is, Texas has a big Texas pride thing,
oh yeah.
and they don't like leaving the state. So
Nope.
I know once we get to that point, I don't think we'll lose a kid for a very long time.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things a lot of coaches talk about when they first step into a role like yours is just building a fence around their home state.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big old fence, bud. Like Texas is a big old place, man. I mean, and you said it best. People from Texas love being from Texas, and
Yeah, yeah.
they love to stay there. They think of themselves as their own country in a lot of ways. You talked a little bit about this year and being a new coach and making some mistakes. Could you share about like one or two mistakes that you made that you could probably pass on some knowledge to a young coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the biggest thing was delegating. I need to do a better job about it. Once you're in the head coaching role, everything's a reflection of you. So it's really hard to give out responsibility. Um,
Mm.
the reason I would consider it a mistake is it took away from my availability with the kids a lot. When somebody else could have taken this task or job for me and probably done a fantastic job, I was too worried about making sure it was done right and done the way I want it done, where I was missing practice a couple times a week, most weeks.
Mhm.
And I have regrets about that because, again, as the head coach, most of these guys turn to you for the answer. My assistant coach turns to me for the answer. And if I'm not present every single day, um, I think it takes a toll. So learning to delegate, obviously you have to be very selective and responsible with who you're delegating to, but it's something I'm working on big time. The second thing is I'm a little torn on this one, but I gave my kids a lot of responsibility in the sense that I didn't force anybody to go a certain weight class. I didn't force a practice policy. If you wanted to be there, you're obviously, I'd love for you to be in the room. If you didn't show up, I'm not tracking you down. Part of that is situational. I have one assistant coach. We've got a million things that we're trying to get done right now. And so I didn't have time to go find those kids. But giving an 18-year-old that kind of freedom might not set them up for success in the best way. And looking back, probably wasn't the right call. It's something I could delegate to a manager or somebody that, hey, if they aren't there, check their name.
Yeah, let me know.
And we figured it out towards the end of the year, but it was something I messed up a little bit early, and not moving weight classes around cost us competing for the national title this year in the NCWAs. I had 2 finalists in the same weight. I had 2 All-Americans in the same weight, where if I would have split some guys up, we probably could have won it.
Yeah. Those are good mistakes to make though, brother. I mean, no, they are. And I'm saying that as a compliment because
No, I appreciate that.
okay, let's start with the delegation of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna fall on you. So taking everything on by yourself is a natural reaction for someone that cares. Makes
Yeah.
sense to me. That's fine. Now, yeah, you did learn, and I'm sure you'll implement some changes. But as far as giving 18-year-olds enough rope to hang themselves with, that's only a reflection of your own motivation. Your assumption is you want to be good, get your ass to practice.
Yeah.
Period. Because you were there, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's a positive reflection and maybe not the best result. And then moving weight classes around, you probably should have told them where to go. Sorry.
But that's my thought process was, these guys believed in me when we didn't have a wrestling room. I told them I'd find one. But at the time when I did our first year of visits, I didn't have a single commit while we had a wrestling room. And so all of them blindly believed in what we were doing, believed in me, believed that we would get that done. To force guys around and go weights they maybe didn't want to go, I felt wasn't quite fair, which is silly. We have this ultimate goal. I'm supposed to lead the ship. I should have taken a harder stance, without a doubt. But you live and learn.
Yeah, look, man. You got to lead. You might have another year in the NWC to fix this thing.
Yeah.
And is that something that motivates you, or are you just eye on the prize for a Division I school?
What do you mean? What motivates me?
Does it motivate you to win the club championships, or are you just solely focused on becoming a Division I program?
A little bit, because honestly, the NCWAs it's harder than people think.
Oh no, I believe that.
And it's a really cool organization. So yes, partially, do I actually care about winning it? Not really. My motivation comes from that looking good for transitioning to Division I. So kind of, but not really. On the flip side, I do want to be oh gosh, why am I blanking on the word? Ambassador for the NCWA, because I didn't know about it until I took this job, and there's over 300 programs across the country, and a lot of them are at schools that don't have a wrestling program. They give kids opportunities that maybe this school had a specific degree they wanted, but they want to keep wrestling. Maybe they weren't recruited to get scholarship to go Division I, and so they just wanted to go to like a Texas A&M and wrestle there. There was several Division I guys that started at Division I, either grades or not a right fit or something. Trade schools compete in it because they could pay their athletes. It's a really great organization. We had over 180 teams at nationals. We had over 600 wrestlers competing at the nationals. It's a really cool organization. Jim Junta has done an amazing job with it, and I think it offers that transition period for teams like Menlo that are transitioning from NAIA to D2, where they could keep competing and wrestling. Transition period for someone like us, Bellarmine. But also now we're hoping it can be a catalyst to get programs launched, start here in the NCWA, build something great, and then approach the school and see if you can get funded on their varsity sports. But
Sure.
Short answer, no, honestly, no.
Understood. No, I get it. But being a part of that will prove pretty important, and winning that thing will, or at least a high place in that, will prove pretty important down the line, I think.
I agree. I do agree. And for Tarleton specifically, it's kind of funny. We have the best rodeo team in the country.
Nice.
Rodeo is not a sanctioned NCAA sport, so all their competitions are club. I think we're 16-time national champions in rodeo. We have a unbelievable rodeo facility. I want to say it's in the tens of millions of dollars. And they've had success at this club level, and it's created massive support and attraction to that program. So in that sense, 100%, yes, really want to succeed and do well in the NCWA.
Have you been to a rodeo event?
Not yet. I haven't. Well, I've been to one.
It's
At
fun.
Dane's Arena. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
It's a lot of fun, man. Like, we brought the kids every year when Rodeo Austin was kicking when we were down here. It's a lot of fun. Like, people don't realize
you
that
were down here for a while with.
I love it. I love golf.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's a cool town. Anyway, okay. Has there been any talks about when you go Division I, what conference you'll be in?
Yes. I'm a little nervous to say in case it gets me in trouble, but I'll just throw out I know we've reached out to the Big 12. I've heard the Big 12 may be splitting into the Big 12 and Big West. I would imagine we would fall into one of those two. And then there's a potential of joining the Mountain West, because I believe once we get to that point, there's enough to have a conference between Utah Valley, Air Force, Wyoming. Those are my thoughts at the moment.
Understood.
I gotta be careful.
I got you. I'll take the ball and I'll run with it. That's fine. Okay. So if every gun is aimed towards getting to a Division I level,
yeah,
what do you need right now to attain that goal? And more specifically, how are you going to achieve it?
Funding is, I mean, that's unfortunately money talks. And especially with this revenue sharing, that is the biggest piece of this. As far as getting us there, it's getting donors to buy in. Now, on paper, we have over 4.6 million in pledges and donations. There's a couple massive ones we're waiting to collect. I've been promised a very, very big one by the end of April that would put us way above our goal. I believe that'll come through. I've met with the guy a lot of times. Very great guy. Had several dinners. Conversation remains the same and consistent. End of April, we'll get that check. Outside of that, just continuing what we've been doing, trying to grow the network, get connected with any individual and every individual we can. After we saw Elon at the national championships, we wrote a letter from our foundation that we sent to his headquarters at X. We sent it to the Gigafactory in Austin. We're reaching out as best as we can to try to get support since he's got a big piece of his company here in Texas. And just getting creative, hearing people out, listening to new ideas. A new thing I'm doing, again, this is learning to offload and delegate some things, is I finally started a booster club where I've brought in some of our best parents and well-connected parents that are going to help fundraise and lead the charge on setting up events like golf outings. I don't know if you saw, we did a comedy show. Greg Warren came in and did a bit, and it was amazing. Things like that to just continue to bring people either A, onto campus, or B, around our community, see the kind of kids I've got some amazing kids, man, amazing kids. And I think as they get to meet them and hang around them, that it's going to be hard for them not to buy into what we're doing.
What does it look like? So, because forgive my skepticism, but
no,
$4.9 million pledged is not $4.9 million in the bank.
Mm-mm.
So what does those follow-ups sound like? What do they look like? Are they text messages? Are they phone calls? Are they meetings? What does the process look like? Hey man, remember you said you're going to give us money?
Yeah. No, it's all of the above. And I try not to bring it up every time. Like, I'll 1 week send our newsletter to them. The next week, send some form of update. The next week, we'll have a social event that the guy owns this restaurant, so we host a lot of them there. Mm-hmm. Any way I can get them around us again, just meeting the kids and seeing us. And then typically whoever made the connection with that individual, because I didn't meet this guy on my own accord. I met him through another person I was in contact with. I usually have that person follow up on the pledge. That way I'm not pestering him about it. Somebody else is. I'm just giving him updates from the team, inviting him to things. The last thing I want to do is come across as greedy, but in the same breath, we're raising money for this program. It's not like I'm going to get a dime out of it. So
Sure.
I'm still navigating that a little bit, to be honest with you.
You know what's funny is, like, Rob Cole's the master of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says, we've had him on here more than once. And the thing that stuck with me was, I will never feel bashful or, trepidatious about asking money for kids.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So at that point, when you start putting it like that, it's not going to go into your pocket. You're not going to be any richer because of this donation.
No, quite the opposite so far.
Quite the opposite, right? Yeah, you're probably giving up more money, right?
Yeah.
But if it's for these kids to have an opportunity to compete at Division I national championships, like we saw last week in Philly, and be part of that spectacle, I can't imagine any holdback on reaching out to another donor and be like, dude, these kids deserve this. So that's, and again, honestly, Rob is master of that.
That's a great point, because now with the nationals just finishing up, and thankfully we have turned up the fundraising again now that our season's over, but this is a good week to hit those guys for sure. That's a great thought. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Joel Shaw, we got anything else before we get to our sprint?
Bring it home.
Bring it on home. Man says bring it home, we're gonna bring it home. Okay. Try your best, Grant, to not think about these answers, just fire them out. You ready?
Oh, you got it.
Okay. What is the best wrestling shoe of all time?
Ooh, the Kale V5s.
Ooh, V5. I don't think we've had those. I
They're
like
the other one I'd say is the Brood Uglies.
Oh, you like those? The
Oh,
orange or the yellow and red?
yeah, dude, great shoe. Ugly as sin, but
Right.
great. Both of those are great shoes. My only knock, not super durable, but super light, great grip. I always want to
Yeah.
be light on my feet, so
There you go. All right, cool. All right. Give us a book recommendation, right? And one of the things that I try to do is have some reflection of what we talked about today. You know, like if you're starting something new, you had better be ready
yeah,
to trudge. You had better be ready to trudge. It is not like walking into a Penn State or a whatever, a committed program. It's not like David walking into Oklahoma State with all the money in the world and you know, I'm sure he's doing a great job. That's not the point, but he had certain advantages. So if you could make a book recommendation for somebody that's in your shoes, so to speak, what would it be?
The Power of Trust. And I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I cannot remember the author's name, but the premise of the book is A, how powerful trust is, but B, when you give somebody trust, meaning you are transparent, you're honest, you're authentic, the natural response is for them to reciprocate that back. So I tell you something embarrassing or something brutally honest or whatever it may be, naturally people respond to that with trust right back to you. And I would say from a recruiting standpoint, fundraising standpoint, being and honestly watching Rob operate, that guy doesn't pull punches about anything. He is
No.
brutally honest. And it's funny, I read it during my MBA program, and that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. So being authentic and genuine and transparent about everything, I think goes a very long ways in every form of this job, coaching, recruiting, fundraising. When I make a mistake, I tell my kids, I'm very honest about it. I'm like, hey, I messed up there. I'm gonna make it better. And they reciprocate by trusting me going into the next thing. They know I'm gonna be honest about our situation. So that would be my number one for sure.
That's a great one. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Got to be American. You only get 4. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Is this who I watched and impacted me, or is this just who I think's the greatest?
You can make this your own list. How about that?
Okay. Jordan Burroughs,
Mhm.
not just on the mat, off the mat. The dude is so
Agreed.
amazing. He gave me a hug and yelled out Tarleton Wrestling this past weekend, and we'd never spoke man to man before.
Really?
So huge fan, big time. Ben Askren, I think
Mhm.
he modernized a little bit of the wrestling with the scrambling, and I don't even like
Absolutely.
to call it scrambling, but just learning to wrestle through every position. Kale Sanderson has changed the entire perspective of how people coach, train, what this
100%.
sport means these days. Oh, number 4, I'm not supposed to think about
There's
it.
always a toughest.
Oh, I'm gonna go Rob Cole.
Right.
I think he was first Ivy League team to ever trophy.
Yeah.
He gives back to this sport in so many massive ways. He won a national title on a torn ACL with double overs through the guy because he knew he wasn't going to win the match. He had to go get the pin. He was too hurt. The fundraising he's done, the mentoring he's done, the opportunities he's gotten people, I think goes way beyond the mat. So that's probably my 4.
That's a great list, by the way. That is a rock solid list. All right,
First
last
time for
one.
Ben Askren.
Is it really?
Really?
I was surprised by that too.
4-time national
That's
finalist, 2-time champ. Runs a great club. Has produced multiple national champs.
Dude, he's putting Wisconsin back on the map.
Yeah,
Wisconsin, they're so good.
yeah, and
And
he's
they're going to get better.
always in the media doing something, growing the sport. Yeah, that one felt easy. I can't believe no one said that before.
I agree. That's a good one. Okay, last one. You have a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport of wrestling and it changes immediately. What would it be?
Oh, the reaction time.
So
I
stupid.
I
It's so
hate it.
stupid.
I hate it. Again, if I sat and thought about it, maybe something else, but off the top of my head, that was first thing. I'm a big fan of reward the offensive wrestler, reward the guy creating action. If I get you to a hip with both legs, but you have my ankle, I don't know. I'd like to see
Yeah.
guys awarded for action and offense. I hated watching some of those positions at nationals this year. It felt like they were taking an eternity to give takedowns.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. The immediacy of freestyle takedowns makes quad pods a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It makes out of bounds more fun. It's like there's just so much to be gained, both like from a tactical standpoint and from like an entertainment standpoint,
Yeah.
that it just seems silly to me. It
Yeah.
seems silly.
And
But
it's hard. I'm such a folk style advocate. I love the control aspect. I love that it's our style.
Mhm.
But I agree. I think there's some things we still don't have quite right that could make it a better spectator sport for sure.
Reaction
100%.
times
Okay.
like the NFL and catching a pass, where a couple of years ago it was like, oh, I don't know. Nobody knows if it's a takedown or not, just because there's so much gray area there.
Yeah.
Sure. The worst was like the position you're talking about, on a hip with a double leg, you got my ankle, and they stare at it for 10, 15 seconds, and nothing has changed. And then they just throw
And then
their fingers.
suddenly, yeah.
Like, what changed? What's the difference?
Oh, a
You just
million
looked at it
times
for
this
longer?
weekend. Yeah.
Dude, drives me nuts. Anyway, all right. Grant, somebody that is looking for an opportunity to wrestle at Division I level in the near future and maybe hasn't gotten the looks that he or she thinks that they deserve, how do they get a hold of you, and how do they go about talking themselves into Tarleton wrestling?
Absolutely. So tsuwrestling.org has our recruiting form, donation form. It's got our newsletters attached to it, so you can read all about the program, the progress. It's got our coaching bios. It's got our roster of the kids. Anything you want to know about the program, tsuwrestling.org. You can find my contact information on it, email, phone number, all that stuff. Our social media page. Oh geez, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think it's Tarleton
All right.
wrestling. It's another great place to start. You can reach out that way as well. As far as buying into what we're doing and, wanting to give yourself a chance to be a part of building this program and kind of make history, the biggest thing we have going for us aside from those things, first Division I wrestling program in Texas, potentially a brand new startup program where you could be the first All-American, first Division I national champ in school history. The other big thing is our in-state tuition is as cheap as $7,500 a year, which
Really?
across the country, I would argue is one of top 5 cheapest Division I institutions in the country. It's why we've been able to recruit some of the athletes we have. I got 4 Division I transfers. I had about 5 kids that were getting offers from Division I universities. And even with that partial scholarship, it was cheaper to come wrestle for us for free. they want to grow. They want out-of-state students, and you can get in-state tuition as an out-of-state student year one, as long as you have a 3.0 GPA, top 25% of your recruiting of your graduating class, or a 1080 SAT or higher. So
That's easy money, dude.
it's easy money. It's why we're going to be very dangerous very quickly.
Yeah.
It's going to happen fast.
Dude, I'm so fired up for you. I'm so fired up.
Okay.
Anything we can do, please don't hesitate to ask, man. Because like this model truly does look like the silver lining in a otherwise fairly bleak NCAA climate.
I appreciate that a ton. And that's all credit to Jim Juta, Tim Wheeler, Tim Brennan, and Al Rogers. Those guys created this model. I'm thankful to be a part of it.
Awesome. All right, brother. Thank you so much. Awesome talking to you
guys. I appreciate it so much. It was a pleasure.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.